Humble girl is astonished by birthmark on a millionaire's face. Her revelation unleashed a disturbing truth. Welcome to the channel. Enjoy the video, give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, comment and share. The crisp autumn air nipped at Emma Lawson's face as she hurried down the bustling streets of Boston. Her worn sneakers slapped against the sidewalk, matching the frantic rhythm of her heart. She clutched her daughter Olivia's medical file to her chest, her mind racing with worry and unanswered questions. The 12-year-old's mysterious condition had stumped doctors for years, and Emma was desperate for answers. As she approached Cooper's Corner, a quaint bookstore nestled between a bustling cafe and a florist shop, Emma's pace slowed. The store's warm, inviting glow beckoned her inside, promising a sanctuary from the chilly October evening. With a deep breath, she pushed open the heavy wooden door, the cheerful jingle of bells announcing her arrival. The bookstore was a cozy haven, filled with the comforting scent of old paper and freshly brewed coffee. Shelves lined the walls from floor to ceiling, each one packed with colorful spines and endless possibilities. Emma's eyes scanned the room, searching for the medical section where she hoped to find some clue, some hint of what might be afflicting her daughter. "Can I help you find something?" a deep, gentle voice asked from behind her. Emma turned, startled, and found herself face to face with a man whose kind eyes seemed to mirror her own exhaustion. His name tag read Nathan, and his warm smile immediately put her at ease. "I'm looking for books on rare genetic disorders," Emma replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "My daughter, well, the doctors aren't sure what's wrong with her." Nathan's expression softened with understanding. "I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me show you to our medical section. We've got quite a collection, thanks to being so close to some of the best hospitals in the country." As they walked through the store, Emma couldn't help but notice the slight limp in Nathan's gait. She wondered briefly about his story, but pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task at hand. "Here we are," Nathan said, gesturing to a well-stocked shelf. "Is there anything specific you're looking for?" Emma hesitated, unsure of how to explain Olivia's baffling symptoms. "It's complicated. She has these episodes of extreme fatigue, and sometimes her skin, it almost seems to shimmer like it's not quite real." Nathan's eyebrows furrowed in concentration. "That does sound unusual. Let me see if I can find something that might help." He began scanning the shelves, pulling out books and flipping through their pages with practiced ease. As Emma watched him work, she couldn't help but feel a spark of connection. There was something about Nathan that felt familiar, comforting even. She shook her head, trying to dispel the notion. She didn't have time for distractions, not with Olivia's health hanging in the balance. "Here," Nathan said, handing her a thick volume. "This one covers a wide range of rare genetic conditions. It might be a good place to start." Their fingers brushed as Emma took the book, and she felt an unexpected jolt of electricity at the contact. She looked up, meeting Nathan's gaze, and for a moment, the world seemed to stand still. The spell was broken by the sudden ringing of Emma's phone. She fumbled to answer it, her heart racing when she saw it was Olivia's school calling. "Hello? Yes, this is Emma Lawson," she said, her voice tight with worry. "What, is she okay? I'll be right there." Emma ended the call, her face pale with fear. "I'm sorry, I have to go. My daughter, she's had another episode at school." Nathan's concern was evident as he quickly bagged the book she had been holding. "Don't worry about paying. Take it and I hope it helps. Is there anything else I can do?" Emma shook her head, already heading for the door. "Thank you. You've been so kind. I need to get to her." As she rushed out into the chilly evening, Emma's mind was a whirlwind of worry and confusion. She didn't notice Nathan watching her leave, a strange expression of recognition and bewilderment on his face. The next few hours passed in a blur of sterile hospital corridors and anxious waiting. Emma sat by Olivia's bedside, holding her daughter's hand as doctors ran test after inconclusive test. The shimmering beneath Olivia's skin had faded, leaving her looking pale and fragile against the stark white hospital sheets. "Mom," Olivia whispered, her voice weak but determined. "I'm scared." Emma squeezed her hand gently. "I know, sweetheart, but we're going to figure this out, I promise. We're not giving up." As night fell, Emma found herself alone in the hospital cafeteria, the book from Cooper's Corner open before her. She pored over its pages, searching for any clue that might explain Olivia's condition. The words blurred together as exhaustion set in, but she refused to stop. She couldn't shake the feeling that the answer was right in front of her, just out of reach. A gentle touch on her shoulder startled her from her research. She looked up to find Nathan standing there, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. "I hope you don't mind," he said softly. "I called the hospital to check on you. I was worried after you left in such a hurry." Emma blinked. Emma, surprised by his thoughtfulness. Thank you, that's very kind of you." Nathan sat down across from her, sliding the coffee towards her. "How's your daughter?" "Stable for now," Emma sighed, gratefully accepting the coffee. "But they still don't know what's causing her symptoms. It's like chasing a ghost." Nathan nodded sympathetically. "I can't imagine how frustrating that must be. Is there anything I can do to help?" Emma was about to politely decline when she noticed something that made her heart skip a beat. As Nathan reached across the table to point at a passage in the book, his sleeve rode up slightly, revealing a small, oddly shaped birthmark on his wrist. "That birthmark," Emma gasped, her eyes wide. It's exactly like Olivia's." Nathan looked at his wrist, confused. "This? I've had it since birth. What do you mean it's like Olivia's?" Emma's mind raced. Pieces of a puzzle she didn't even know existed starting to fall into place. "Olivia has the same mark in the same place. I've never seen anyone else with one like it." The air between them seemed to crackle with tension as they both processed this information. Nathan's face paled, and Emma could see the same questions and fears swirling in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. "This can't be a coincidence," Nathan said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "But how? I don't understand how this is possible." Emma shook her head, her thoughts a chaotic jumble. "I don't know either, but I think we need to find out. For Olivia's sake." As they sat there in the quiet hospital cafeteria, surrounded by the muted sounds of machines and distant conversations, Emma and Nathan felt the world shift beneath their feet. Whatever connection lay between them and Olivia, it was clear that uncovering the truth would change their lives forever. The next morning dawned grey and overcast, matching Emma's mood as she made her way back to Olivia's hospital room. She had barely slept, her mind racing with questions and possibilities. The sight of her daughter, small and vulnerable in the hospital bed, sent a fresh wave of determination through her. "Good morning, sweetheart," Emma said softly, smoothing Olivia's hair back from her forehead. "How are you feeling?" Olivia managed a weak smile. "A little better. The doctors said I can go home today if nothing changes." Emma nodded, relief washing over her. "That's great news. Listen, Olivia, there's someone I'd like you to meet. Is that okay?" At Olivia's curious nod, Emma stepped back and motioned for Nathan to enter the room. He had been waiting outside, respecting their privacy, but eager to help in any way he could. As Nathan approached the bed, Olivia's eyes widened. "Mom," she whispered, her gaze fixed on Nathan's wrist. "He has the same mark as me." The room fell silent as the weight of this confirmation settled over them. Emma looked from her daughter to Nathan, seeing the same mix of fear and hope in both their eyes. "Olivia," Emma said gently, "this is Nathan. We met yesterday at the bookstore and, well, we noticed something interesting. We think there might be a connection between your condition and his birthmark." Nathan stepped closer, his voice kind as he addressed Olivia. "Hi, Olivia. Your mom told me about what you've been going through. I know it must be scary, but I want you to know that we're going to do everything we can to figure this out." Olivia's gaze darted between Nathan and her mother, her brow furrowed in confusion. Are you my dad?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Emma felt her heart race as she struggled to find the right words. "Honey, we don't know yet," she said carefully. "There's still a lot we need to figure out. But Nathan is here to help us, okay?" Olivia nodded slowly, her eyes never leaving Nathan's face. "Okay," she said softly. Can I see your birthmark again?" Nathan gently rolled up his sleeve, revealing the distinctive mark. Olivia reached out, her small fingers tracing the outline that so perfectly matched her own. As Emma watched this interaction, she felt a mix of emotions she couldn't quite name. Hope, fear, confusion, and something else. A warmth that spread through her chest as she observed the gentle way Nathan spoke to Olivia, the kindness in his eyes. A knock at the door interrupted the moment. Dr. Chen, Olivia's specialist, entered the room with a stack of papers in his hand. "Good morning," he said, his tone professional but warm. "I have Olivia's latest test results. There's something interesting I'd like to discuss with you, Ms. Lawson." Emma nodded, her heart pounding. "Of course, Dr. Chen. Nathan, would you mind staying with Olivia for a moment?" As Emma followed Dr. Chen into the hallway, she cast one last glance at Nathan and Olivia. The sight of them together, heads bent in quiet conversation, filled her with a strange sense of rightness, as if pieces of a long-lost puzzle were finally falling into place. Little did Emma know that the information Dr. Chen was about to share would set in motion a chain of events that would unravel secrets long buried and change their lives forever. The mystery surrounding Olivia's condition and Nathan's connection to them was far from solved, but the first threads of understanding were beginning to emerge, promising a journey of discovery, heartache, and ultimately, hope. Dr. Chen led Emma to a quiet corner of the hospital hallway, his face a mask of professional concern. "Miss Lawson, we found something unusual in Olivia's latest blood work," he began, his voice low and measured. "There's a genetic marker we've never seen before. It's not in any of our databases." Emma's heart raced, her mind immediately jumping to worst-case scenarios. "What does that mean, Doctor?" "Chen, is it dangerous?" The doctor held up a hand, his expression softening. "We don't know yet. It's not necessarily bad news, but it's certainly puzzling. I'd like to run more tests and—" He hesitated, his eyes flickering towards Olivia's room. "If possible, I'd like to test you and Olivia's father as well. It could help us understand the origin of this marker." Emma's throat tightened. I'm not sure who Olivia's father is," she admitted, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "It's complicated." Dr. Chen nodded, his face free of judgment. "I understand, but if there's any way to find out, it could be crucial to Olivia's treatment." As Emma made her way back to Olivia's room, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The possibility that Nathan could be Olivia's father seemed both impossible and strangely right. She paused at the doorway, watching as Nathan entertained Olivia with a story, his animated gestures bringing a rare smile to her daughter's face. "Nathan," Emma said softly, catching his attention, "can I speak with you for a moment?" In the hallway, Emma relayed Dr. Chen's findings, her voice barely above a whisper. "They want to test us, to see if there's a genetic link," she finished, searching Nathan's face for a reaction. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of shock and determination. "Of course, anything that could help Olivia. But Emma, I don't understand how this is possible. We've never—" Emma nodded, equally bewildered. "I know. But that birthmark, and now this genetic marker, there has to be an explanation." As they stood there, grappling with the implications of their situation, Sarah Cooper, Nathan's mother, rounded the corner. Her face, lined with worry, brightened at the sight of her son. "Nathan, I got your message. Is everything all right?" Sarah's eyes darted between Nathan and Emma, curiosity mingling with concern. Nathan took a deep breath, placing a gentle hand on his mother's arm. "Mum, this is Emma. Her daughter Olivia is sick, and, well, it's complicated. We think there might be a connection to our family." Sarah's brow furrowed in confusion. "A connection? What do you mean?" Before Nathan could respond, Olivia's voice called out from the room, "Mom, can I go to the cafeteria? I'm hungry." The tension of the moment broken, Emma managed a small smile. "Of course, sweetheart. Let's all go together." As they made their way to the cafeteria, an odd parade of confused adults and one curious child, Emma couldn't help but feel like she was on the precipice of something life-changing. The fluorescent lights of the hospital seemed to buzz with the energy of unspoken questions and hidden truths. In the cafeteria, over plates of lackluster hospital food, the adults tried to make sense of their situation, while Olivia, blissfully unaware of the underlying tension, chatted happily about the jello she'd been promised. "So let me get this straight," Sarah said, her voice low to avoid being overheard. "Olivia has the same birthmark as Nathan, and now there's some kind of genetic thing." Emma nodded, pushing her untouched salad around her plate. "Yes, and Dr. Chen wants to run tests on all of us to see if there's a connection." Sarah's face paled, her hand trembling slightly as she set down her fork. "Oh dear, oh my." Nathan leaned in, concern etched on his face. "Mum, what is it?" Sarah closed her eyes, taking a deep breath before speaking. "There's something I need to tell you, Nathan. Something I should have told you a long time ago." The air around their table seemed to thicken with anticipation. Even Olivia sensed the shift, her spoon pausing halfway to her mouth. "Nathan, you were adopted," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your father and I, we couldn't have children of our own. We adopted you when you were just a baby." The revelation hit Nathan like a physical blow. He leaned back in his chair, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. "Adopted? But why didn't you ever tell me?" Sarah reached out, grasping her son's hand. "We meant to. So many times. But as the years went by, it became harder and harder. You were our son in every way that mattered. We didn't want you to feel different." Emma watched this exchange with a mix of sympathy and growing realization. "Sarah," she said gently, "do you know anything about Nathan's birth parents?" Sarah shook her head, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Very little. It was a closed adoption. We only knew that his birth mother was very young, barely more than a child herself." As the adults grappled with this new information, Olivia's small voice cut through the tension. "Does this mean Nathan could really be my dad?" The innocence of the question brought them all back to the present moment. Emma smiled softly at her daughter, smoothing her hair. "We don't know yet, sweetheart. But we're going to find out." Nathan, still reeling from the revelation of his adoption, managed to gather himself. "Olivia," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "no matter what the tests show, I want you to know that I'm here for you. For both of you," he added, meeting Emma's gaze. As they left the cafeteria, the group felt a strange mix of uncertainty and connection. They made their way back to Olivia's room, where Dr. Chen was waiting with consent forms for the genetic tests. "We'll have the results in a few days," Dr. Chen explained, as they each provided blood samples. "In the meantime, Olivia is free to go home. Just keep an eye out for any unusual symptoms." As Emma helped Olivia pack her things, Nathan pulled his mother aside. "Mom, I need to know more about my adoption. Are there any records, anything that could help us understand what's going on?" Sarah nodded, her eyes still red-rimmed from earlier tears. "There's a box in the attic with all the paperwork. We can go through it together when we get home." The group parted ways in the hospital parking lot, the weight of unanswered questions hanging heavy in the air. Emma and Olivia headed home to their small apartment, while Nathan and Sarah made their way to the Cooper family home. Later that evening, as Olivia slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, Emma sat at her tiny kitchen table, surrounded by old photo albums and documents. She was searching for any clue, any hint of a connection to Nathan or his family. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. "Found some old adoption papers. Nothing concrete yet, but the agency was in Boston. Maybe a lead." Emma's heart raced as she typed her reply. "It's something. We'll figure this out, Nathan, for Olivia's sake." As she set her phone down, Emma's eyes fell on an old photograph she hadn't looked at in years. It showed a much younger version of herself, standing in front of a familiar-looking bookstore. Her breath caught in her throat as she realized it was Cooper's Corner, long before Nathan had taken it over. The coincidence seemed too great to ignore. With trembling hands, Emma dialed her mother's number, praying she was still awake despite the late hour. "Mom," she said when the call connected, "I need to ask you something about when I was born. It's important." As Emma listened to her mother's hesitant words, pieces of a long-forgotten puzzle began to fall into place. The mystery surrounding Olivia's condition, Nathan's adoption, and their chance meeting at the bookstore suddenly seemed less like coincidence and more like the hand of fate. Across town, Nathan sat in his childhood bedroom, surrounded by dusty boxes and faded documents. His fingers traced the outline of his birthmark as he read through the sparse details of his adoption. A name caught his eye, making his heart skip a beat. He reached for his phone, dialing Emma's number without hesitation. As the call connected, both Emma and Nathan spoke at the same time. "I think I found something." Their eyes widened as they realized the synchronicity of their discoveries. Whatever secrets lay buried in their past, it was clear that uncovering them would change everything. The mystery that had brought them together was far from solved, but for the first time, they felt like they were on the right path. As they shared their findings, a mix of excitement and apprehension filled their voices. The connection between them, once a mere spark, now felt like a blazing fire of possibility. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by their love for Olivia and the growing bond between them. Little did they know that their late-night discoveries were just the tip of the iceberg. The truth, when fully revealed, would shake the foundations of everything they thought they knew about themselves and their families. But for now, in the quiet of the night, they allowed themselves to feel a glimmer of hope, a promise of answers on the horizon. As Emma finally lay down to sleep, her mind swirling with new information and possibilities, she couldn't shake the feeling that their lives were about to change in ways they could never have imagined. The mystery of Olivia's condition, the secrets of Nathan's past, and the unexpected connections between their families were threads in a tapestry they were only beginning to unravel. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions, and perhaps even new dangers. But for the first time in years, Emma felt a sense of purpose and direction. Whatever lay ahead, she knew she wouldn't face it alone. With Nathan by her side and Olivia's well-being as their guiding star, they would uncover the truth no matter where it led them. As sleep finally claimed her, Emma's last conscious thought was of Nathan's kind eyes and Olivia's brave smile. Whatever secrets the past held, the future, for the first time in a long while, looked bright with promise. The next morning dawned with a sense of anticipation hanging in the air. Emma woke early, her mind still churning with the revelations of the previous night. She moved quietly through the apartment, careful not to wake Olivia, who was finally getting some much-needed rest. As she sipped her coffee, Emma's eyes kept drifting to the old photograph she had discovered. The image of her younger self standing in front of Cooper's corner seemed to hold a key to unlocking the mystery that had enveloped their lives. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had been there before, long before her recent visit. A soft knock at the door startled her from her reverie. Emma opened it to find Nathan standing there, looking as if he hadn't slept a wink. His eyes were bright with excitement and trepidation. "I couldn't wait," he said, his voice low. "I've been up all night going through those adoption papers. Emma, I think I found something big." Emma ushered him in, glancing quickly at Olivia's closed bedroom door. "What is it?" she whispered, leading him to the kitchen table. Nathan spread out a series of documents, his hands trembling slightly. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a name on one of the yellowed pages. "The adoption agency that handled my case, it's the same one listed on your birth certificate." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "How is that possible? I wasn't adopted." "No, but—" Nathan hesitated, his voice thick with emotion. "Emma, I think you might be my birth mother." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Emma processed his words. She gripped the edge of the table, her knees suddenly weak. That's impossible," she stammered. "I would remember being pregnant. I would remember giving birth." Nathan nodded, understanding the shock in her eyes. "I know it sounds crazy, but look at the dates. You would have been just 16 when I was born. Is it possible that something happened? Something you might not remember?" Emma's mind raced, fragments of memories flashing through her consciousness. A summer camp when she was 15, a period of time that had always been hazy in her recollection, her parents' strange behavior when she returned home, the whispered conversations that would stop when she entered a room. I don't know," she said, her voice barely audible. "It's all so fuzzy, but how could I forget something like that?" Before Nathan could respond, they heard the creak of Olivia's bedroom door opening. They quickly gathered up the papers, shoving them into Nathan's bag just as Olivia padded into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Mom," she said, her gaze moving curiously between Emma and Nathan. "What's going on?" Emma forced a smile, trying to keep her voice steady. "Nothing, sweetheart. Nathan just stopped by to see how you were feeling. How about some breakfast?" As Emma busied herself with making pancakes, her mind whirled with possibilities. Could it be true? Could she have given birth to Nathan and somehow forgotten? And if so, what did that mean for Olivia? The day passed in a blur of quiet conversations and meaningful glances between Emma and Nathan. They took Olivia to the park, watching her play with a newfound energy that both relieved and puzzled them. The shimmering beneath her skin seemed to have subsided, at least for now. As evening approached, Emma's phone rang. It was Dr. Chen, his voice tight with urgency. "Ms. Lawson, I need you to bring Olivia back to the hospital immediately. The test results are in, and, well, it's something we need to discuss in person." Fear gripped Emma's heart as she relayed the message to Nathan. They rushed to the hospital, Olivia sensing their anxiety and growing quiet in the back seat. At the hospital, they were ushered into a private consultation room. Dr. Chen entered, his face grave. "Thank you for coming so quickly," he said, taking a seat across from them. "What I'm about to tell you is, well, it's unprecedented in my experience." He turned to Nathan first. "Mr. Cooper, your DNA shows a direct paternal match to Olivia. You are, without a doubt, her biological father." Nathan's eyes widened, his hand automatically reaching for Olivia's. The girl looked up at him, a mix of confusion and hope on her face. Dr. Chen then turned to Emma, his expression softening. "Ms. Lawson, this is where things get complicated. Your DNA shows a match to both Olivia and Nathan, but not in the way we expected. You are Olivia's mother, as we knew, but you're also Nathan's sister." The room fell silent, the weight of this revelation pressing down on them all. Emma felt as if the floor had dropped out from beneath her. How is that possible?" she managed to whisper. Dr. Chen shook his head. "Genetically, it's clear, but the how and why, that's something only you can uncover. What I can tell you is that this unique genetic combination seems to be the source of Olivia's condition. It's a 1 in a million occurrence, a genetic anomaly that's causing her symptoms." As they left the hospital, shell-shocked and reeling, Emma felt as if she were walking through a dream. Nathan guided them to his car, his hand a steady presence on her back. "We need answers," he said quietly as they buckled Olivia into the back seat. "And I think I know where to start." They drove in silence to Cooper's Corner, the bookstore that now seemed to be at the center of their tangled history. Sarah was waiting for them, her face etched with concern. "I've closed the store for the day," she said, ushering them inside. "I think it's time we all had a long talk." As they settled into the cozy reading nook at the back of the store, surrounded by the comforting smell of books and the soft glow of lamplight, Sarah took a deep breath. "There's something I need to show you," she said, her voice trembling slightly. She reached behind the counter and pulled out an old, leather-bound journal. "This belonged to your father, Nathan. He left it for you to read when the time was right. I think that time is now." Nathan took the journal with shaking hands, opening it to the first page. As he began to read aloud, the story of their past began to unfold, a tale of love, loss, and secrets long buried. The journal spoke of a summer romance between two teenagers, Nathan's father and a girl named Claire. It told of their joy when they discovered they were expecting twins, and their heartbreak when they realized they were too young to care for two babies. With tears in his eyes, Nathan read about the impossible choice they had made. One twin, himself, would be given up for adoption. The other, Emma, would be raised by Claire's parents as their own daughter, never knowing the truth of her birth. As the story unfolded, Emma felt as if the missing pieces of her life were finally falling into place. The hazy memories, the unexplained feelings of loss, the instant connection she had felt with Nathan. It all made sense now. Olivia, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. "So you're my dad," she said to Nathan, her voice small but sure. "And you're my mom and my aunt," she added, turning to Emma. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, sweetheart, it's complicated, but we're all family." Sarah, who had been silent throughout the reading, finally spoke. "There's more," she said softly. "The reason we chose this bookstore, the reason we stayed in Boston all these years, we always hoped that someday, somehow, you two would find each other." As the night wore on, they pored over old photographs and letters, piecing together the story of their family. The coincidences that had brought them together now seemed like the deliberate design of a fate, determined to reunite them. In the early hours of the morning, as Olivia dozed on a pile of cushions, Emma and Nathan sat close together, the journal open between them. "What do we do now?" Emma asked, her voice hoarse from talking and crying. Nathan took her hand, his touch both familiar and new. "We move forward," he said simply. "We're a family now, all of us, and we'll face whatever comes next together." As the first light of dawn began to filter through the bookstore windows, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. The road ahead would be challenging, explaining their unique situation to the world, managing Olivia's condition, navigating their own complex relationship, but for the first time in her life, she felt truly complete. She looked at Nathan, seeing in his eyes the same mix of wonder and determination she felt in her heart. Whatever the future held, they would face it as a family, bound by love, united by blood, and strengthened by the truth they had uncovered. As Olivia stirred, Emma and Nathan moved to wake her gently. It was time to go home, not to Emma's small apartment or Nathan's place above the bookstore, but to a new home they would create together, a place where their unconventional family could grow and thrive. The mystery that had brought them together was solved, but their story was far from over. As they stepped out into the crisp morning air, Emma felt a surge of hope. The future, once so uncertain, now shimmered with possibility, as bright and beautiful as the sunrise breaking over the Boston skyline. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of adjustments and revelations for Emma, Nathan, and Olivia. They had decided to move into Sarah's spacious home above Cooper's Corner, transforming the cozy apartment into a haven for their newly formed family. The bookstore became not just a place of business, but the heart of their shared life, filled with whispered secrets and newfound joy. One crisp autumn morning, as golden leaves swirled past the storefront windows, Emma found herself alone in the quiet of the shop. She ran her fingers along the spines of well-worn books, marveling at how quickly this place had become home. The bell above the door chimed softly, and she turned to see Dr. Chen entering, a thick folder tucked under his arm. "Good morning, Emma," he said, his usual professional demeanor softened by a warm smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Emma shook her head, gesturing for him to follow her to the reading nook at the back of the store. "Not at all. We've been expecting you. Nathan just took Olivia for her checkup at the hospital." As they settled into the comfortable chairs, Dr. Chen opened the folder, spreading out a series of complex charts and diagrams. "I wanted to discuss Olivia's latest test results with you in person," he began, his tone careful. "As you know, her condition is entirely unique. We've been consulting with geneticists around the world and, well, we've made some fascinating discoveries." Emma leaned forward, her heart racing. "Is she going to be okay?" Dr. Chen nodded reassuringly. "Yes, I believe so, but her genetic makeup is truly extraordinary. The combination of your DNA and Nathan's, siblings who didn't know they were related, has created something we've never seen before. The shimmering effect we've observed in her skin, it's a result of a heightened cellular regeneration process." Emma's brow furrowed in confusion. "What does that mean, exactly?" "In simple terms," Dr. Chen explained, "Olivia's body is constantly renewing itself at a rate far beyond normal human capacity. It's why she experiences those extreme fatigue episodes. Her body is working overtime. But it also means she has an incredible resistance to disease and possibly even a slowed aging process." The implications of his words hung heavy in the air. Emma's mind reeled, trying to process what this meant for her daughter's future. "So she's going to be okay? She's not in danger?" Dr. Chen's expression turned serious. "Physically, I believe she'll be fine. We'll need to monitor her closely, of course. But Emma, there's something else we need to consider. If word gets out about Olivia's unique condition, people will want to study her." Emma finished, a chill running down her spine. "They'll want to use her." Dr. Chen nodded gravely. "Exactly, which is why I wanted to speak with you privately first. We need to decide how to proceed, how to protect Olivia while also exploring the potential benefits her condition might offer to medical science." As they discussed the possibilities and risks, Emma felt the weight of responsibility settling heavily on her shoulders. She thought of Nathan, of the incredible bond they had formed, part siblings, part co-parents, and something else entirely that they were still trying to define. She knew that together they would do whatever it took to keep Olivia safe. The bell chimed again, and Emma looked up to see Nathan and Olivia entering the store, their faces flushed from the cool autumn air. Olivia's eyes lit up at the sight of Dr. Chen, and she bounded over, full of energy. "Dr. Chen, did you come to see our new home?" she asked excitedly, seemingly oblivious to the serious conversation she had interrupted. Dr. Chen smiled warmly at the young girl. "I did indeed, Olivia, and I must say it's lovely. How are you feeling today?" As Olivia launched into a detailed description of her day, Nathan caught Emma's eye, raising an eyebrow in silent question. Emma gave a small nod, indicating they would talk later. The rest of the day passed in a blur of customers, story times, and quiet family moments stolen between the shelves of the bookstore. As night fell and they closed up shop, Emma and Nathan finally had a moment alone while Sarah entertained Olivia upstairs. Emma recounted her conversation with Dr. Chen, watching as Nathan's expression shifted from concern to determination. "We'll protect her," he said firmly, taking Emma's hand in his. "Whatever it takes." As they stood there, surrounded by the comforting presence of books and the lingering scent of coffee from the day's customers, Emma felt a surge of emotion. She looked at Nathan, her brother, her partner, the father of her child, and saw in his eyes the same complex mix of feelings she harbored in her own heart. "Nathan," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "what are we doing? This situation, it's so complicated." Nathan stepped closer, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek. "Life is complicated, Emma. But this, Olivia, it feels right, doesn't it?" Before Emma could respond, a crash from upstairs jolted them apart. They raced up the stairs to find Olivia on the floor of the living room, her skin shimmering more intensely than they had ever seen before. "It hurts," Olivia whimpered, her small body trembling. "Make it stop, please." Emma and Nathan rushed to her side, cradling her between them as Sarah called Dr. Chen. As they waited for help to arrive, they whispered soothing words to Olivia, their own fears and doubts momentarily forgotten in the face of their daughter's pain. Hours later, after Dr. Chen had examined Olivia and administered a new treatment to help stabilize her condition, the family found themselves gathered in the cozy living room. Olivia slept peacefully on the couch, her skin now calm and normal. "We can't keep this a secret forever," Sarah said softly, breaking the tense silence. "Sooner or later, people will start to notice that Olivia is different." Nathan nodded, his arm wrapped protectively around Emma's shoulders. "We'll need a plan. A way to control the narrative, to protect her without completely isolating her from the world." As they discussed their options late into the night, a plan began to take shape. They would gradually introduce the idea of Olivia's unique condition to their closest friends and community members. Cooper's Corner would become not just a bookstore, but a sanctuary of knowledge and understanding. In the weeks that followed, Emma and Nathan threw themselves into research, poring over medical journals and genetic studies. They reached out to trusted experts in the field, slowly building a network of allies who could help them navigate the uncharted waters of Olivia's condition. Olivia, for her part, bloomed under the constant love and attention of her unusual family. Her episodes became less frequent as Dr. Chen refined her treatment, and her natural curiosity about her own uniqueness grew. Emma and Nathan made a pact to always be honest with her, to help her understand and embrace her extraordinary gifts. One evening, as the first snow of winter dusted the streets of Boston, Emma found Nathan in the bookstore after closing, surrounded by stacks of medical texts and historical novels. "What's all this?" she asked, gesturing to the chaos of books. Nathan looked up, his eyes bright with excitement. "I've been thinking, what if Olivia isn't the first? What if there have been others throughout history with similar genetic anomalies? I've been looking for patterns, for stories that might hint at people with extraordinary healing abilities or extended lifespans." Emma settled into the chair beside him, picking up one of the books. "And? Have you found anything?" Nathan shrugged, running a hand through his hair. "Nothing concrete, but there are stories, legends really, that make me wonder. And if there have been others, then Olivia isn't alone," Emma finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. "And maybe, just maybe, there are others out there right now who could help us understand what she's going through." As they sat there, surrounded by the accumulated knowledge of centuries, Emma felt a renewed sense of hope. They had embarked on an incredible journey, one filled with challenges and uncertainties, but they were facing it together, bound by love, family, and a shared determination to uncover the truth. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in a soft, white quiet. Inside Cooper's Corner, a family born of secrets and unlikely circumstances huddled together, finding strength in their unity and hope in the pages of countless books. As Olivia slept peacefully upstairs, Emma and Nathan continued their research, driven by love and an unwavering commitment to uncovering the mysteries that lay ahead. The future, once so uncertain, now held the promise of discovery and the comfort of unconditional love. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a family, their bond strengthened by the very secrets that had once threatened to tear them apart. As winter melted into spring, Cooper's Corner had become more than just a bookstore. It was a haven of knowledge, a gathering place for those seeking answers to life's most perplexing questions. Emma and Nathan had carefully cultivated a community of trusted individuals, doctors, researchers, and even a few families who had children with unusual genetic markers. The bookstore's back room, once a simple storage space, had been transformed into a mini library dedicated to rare genetic conditions and medical mysteries. On a warm May afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the newly cleaned windows, Emma stood behind the counter, absently flipping through a medical journal. The bell above the door chimed, and she looked up to see a familiar face, Dr. Chen, accompanied by a woman she didn't recognize. "Emma," Dr. Chen said, his voice tinged with excitement, "I'd like you to meet Dr. Amelia Foster. She's a geneticist from London, and she might have some insights into Olivia's condition." Emma's heart raced as she shook Dr. Foster's hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Nathan and Olivia are upstairs. Shall we join them?" As they made their way to the living quarters above the store, Emma couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and trepidation. Every new expert brought the possibility of answers, but also the risk of unwanted attention. They found Nathan and Olivia in the sun-drenched living room, engrossed in a game of chess. Olivia's face lit up at the sight of Dr. Chen, but her expression turned curious as she noticed Dr. Foster. "Olivia," Emma said gently, "this is Dr. Foster. She's come a long way to meet you." Dr. Foster knelt down to Olivia's level, her smile warm and genuine. "Hello, Olivia. I've heard so much about you. I was wondering if you might show me that special shimmer of yours." Olivia looked to her parents for reassurance. At their nod, she closed her eyes in concentration. Slowly, her skin began to glow with an otherworldly light, rippling like the surface of a pond in a gentle breeze. Dr. Foster's eyes widened in wonder. "Extraordinary," she breathed. "Absolutely extraordinary." As Olivia's shimmer faded, Dr. Foster turned to Emma and Nathan. "I've been studying genetic anomalies for years, but I've never seen anything quite like this. However, I have encountered similar, albeit less pronounced cases." Nathan leaned forward, his voice eager. "You mean there are others like Olivia?" Dr. Foster nodded, her expression serious. "Not exactly like her, but similar enough to be significant. I've been tracking a handful of individuals around the world who exhibit accelerated healing and cellular regeneration. But Olivia's case is by far the most advanced I've ever seen." As the adults discussed the implications of this revelation, Olivia tugged on Emma's sleeve. "Mom," she whispered, "does this mean I'm not the only one who's different?" Emma pulled her daughter close, her heart swelling with love and protection. "You've always been unique, sweetheart. But yes, it looks like there are others out there who might understand what you're going through." The next few hours were a whirlwind of discussion and planning. Dr. Foster proposed a comprehensive study, bringing together the individuals she had been tracking and centralizing their research at a facility in Boston. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. It offered the promise of answers, but also the risk of exposure. As night fell and Olivia was tucked into bed, Emma, Nathan, and Sarah gathered in the bookstore with Dr. Chen and Dr. Foster to make a decision that would change their lives forever. "If we do this," Nathan said, his voice low and intense, "we need ironclad guarantees of privacy and protection. Olivia's well-being comes first, always." Dr. Foster nodded solemnly. "Of course, we'll set up a private foundation, funded anonymously. Everything will be done with the utmost discretion." Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "And what about the other families? How do we know they can be trusted?" "We'll vet them carefully," Dr. Chen assured her. "And we'll start small, bringing in only a few individuals at first. We can expand the study gradually as we build trust." As the night wore on, a plan began to take shape. Cooper's Corner would remain their home base, but a separate facility would be established for research and treatment. The bookstore would continue to operate as usual, providing a cover of normalcy for their extraordinary undertaking. In the months that followed, their lives took on a new rhythm. By day, Emma and Nathan ran the bookstore, sharing knowing glances with the occasional customer, who was more than just a casual browser. By night, they pored over research data and coordinated with Dr. Foster's team. Olivia, now aware that she wasn't alone in her uniqueness, blossomed. Her episodes became less frequent, and her natural curiosity led her to devour every book on genetics and biology she could get her hands on. She began to see her condition not as a burden, but as a gift, one that might someday help others. As summer turned to fall once more, Cooper's Corner hosted a very special gathering. Families from around the world, each with a child who exhibited extraordinary abilities, came together for the first time. The bookstore hummed with excited whispers and the sound of children comparing their unique shimmers. Emma stood at the center of it all, watching as Olivia confidently showed a group of wide-eyed kids how to control their glow. Nathan appeared at her side, slipping an arm around her waist. "We did it," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "We found a way to give her a normal life, while still embracing what makes her special." Emma leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Their relationship had evolved over the past year, growing into something that defied conventional labels. They were partners in every sense of the word, bound by love, family, and a shared purpose. As the evening wound down and their guests departed, Emma found herself alone in the bookstore. She ran her fingers along the spines of the books that had started it all, medical journals and genetic studies that had once seemed so foreign and now felt like old friends. A soft knock at the door startled her from her reverie. She opened it to find an elderly woman standing there, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm sorry to disturb you," the woman said, her voice quavering. "But I saw the children earlier, with their beautiful lights, and I needed to know if it was real." Emma's heart raced as she ushered the woman inside. "What do you mean?" The woman rolled up her sleeve, revealing skin that shimmered faintly in the dim light of the store. "I've hidden it all my life," she whispered. "I never knew there were others." Tears welled in Emma's eyes as she took the woman's hand. "You're not alone," she said softly. "Not anymore." As they talked late into the night, Emma felt a sense of completion wash over her. The mystery that had brought her family together was far from solved, but they had found something even more valuable: a community, a purpose, and a chance to make a real difference in the world. In the years that followed, Cooper's Corner became more than just a bookstore. It was a beacon of hope for those who felt different, a sanctuary of knowledge for those seeking answers, and a testament to the power of love and family in all its forms. Olivia grew into a confident young woman, using her unique abilities to push the boundaries of medical science. Emma and Nathan's relationship deepened, their bond strengthened by the challenges they had faced together. And Sarah, the guardian angel of their unconventional family, watched over them all with pride and love. As Emma closed up the store one evening, many years later, she paused to look at the framed photo on the wall, a picture of that first gathering of special families. So much had changed since then, but the heart of their mission remained the same: to provide a home for those who were extraordinary, to seek understanding in the face of the unknown, and to prove that love, in all its complex and beautiful forms, was the greatest power of all. The mystery of Olivia's condition had led them on an incredible journey, one that had transformed not just their lives, but the lives of countless others. And as Emma turned off the lights and climbed the stairs to join her family, she knew that their greatest adventures were still to come. For in the pages of books and the strands of DNA, in the shimmer of extraordinary skin and the bonds of unconventional love, there would always be new mysteries to solve, new wonders to discover, and new stories to tell. And Cooper's Corner would always be there, a haven of knowledge and hope, ready to turn the page to the next chapter in their extraordinary tale.